Welcome to another AriasWave crypto update. So in this video, I'm going to cover about 4 cryptos. Just want to give an update on the main ones and a couple of other altcoins which I tend to follow. Um, there may be another, but at this point, I'll keep it to 4. So the main count on the market is that we're in a wave 5. The wave 4 in Bitcoin ended in the end of 2018. And then we began what I believe is a 5-wave move to the upside. Now, this is obviously starting to look ridiculous. It's getting the it's more sloped in terms of RSI. I mean, we're just losing strength like crazy here. But that doesn't mean we can't make one more all-time high to complete a 5-wave move. So that means that we've seen a 1, 2, 3 up until basically the end of last year, and then what we're seeing now is a 4. So although I'm expecting a move higher, it's probably going to be limited to all-time highs or just above, around 76,000. And the way in which it gets there, I think, is going to be, well, important due to just how weak this market is getting. In terms of how long the wave 1 took, that one took about 190 days, so roughly 6 months. Wave 3 took about 600 days. So this move here, I'm expecting to take 6 months or more. Given that it's probably going to be weaker, I could be proven wrong, right? It might just finish off and basically then turn back down. So looking closer at the wave count as to the way I see it, I like to use the 4-hour a lot first before I zoom closer, just to see how it's interacting with the 500 period moving average. At the moment, it's hit a bit of resistance there, but that doesn't mean that it won't break through depending on the pattern. So going a bit closer again, as you can see, I've marked a low, which I believe happened in June. I believe a low happened in a lot of markets in June, and what we've seen is basically just a gradual, uh, 1 2 1 2 pattern forming. And this is not just happening in Bitcoin; it's happening in a lot of other coins. So the count right now, as it stands, is a 1 A B C D E. Now the reason why I label it like this is because the E pattern, it's kind of, in my opinion, it can only be a type a type 1 weak 5-wave move, right? Which some people or Ellioticians might call a uh, ending diagonal type move, right? Or a triple zigzag, depending on uh, how you look at it. If you're an Elliotician, um, the D wave looks, I mean, the middle part of it looks pretty choppy, with the first and last waves looking pretty decent. That looks like a 5-wave move for C. That one looks like a B, etc., etc. So at the moment, we're looking at critical support for this idea being at around 20,711, right? And potentially having seen the bulk of the wave 2 correction already happening. The latest move down that we're seeing now, in my opinion, could be just the end of the correction for wave E. So I'd expect it to go a little lower, but we've already had a pretty decent retracement, and we've hit just under the 50%, almost touching the 0.618. So at this point in time, uh, cup and handle pattern potentially, but I'm not about the patterns, I'm more about the waves. So it's looking like the start of a move up. I don't see this looking corrective at all, and the reason for that would be, well, the current move now. Okay, now if this was corrective, uh, then this would be a wave A zigzag, right? Because all the waves within, they're all the same. So if that were to be the case, then we'd be in a B wave now, right? So the B wave would extend lower, um, and then this correction would be ongoing. Okay, so if you believe that this is still bearish for the short term, then you'd be looking you'd be looking for a break of the high to confirm that that's the case, with not much more movement to the downside, and especially not below the last high. If it starts to move below the last high, then we can consider a bearish scenario. But in doing that, I still wouldn't expect it to happen soon. That would mean that a correction would just still be unfolding in general, getting ready to move down. So it really depends on if we break that high again. If we do without breaking below wave C, then critical support remains 20,711. So that's what I see for Bitcoin at the moment. So looking at the next one, I'm just going to look at Ethereum. Which one have I got? No, not that one. Okay, so with this particular one, I'll just go to the daily and I'll just illustrate what I'm potentially seeing here. Very similar to Bitcoin. Um, I have no option but to count this move down at the lows as a 1-2 as well, with the 3 basically looking the same as Bitcoin, and the correction basically the same as Bitcoin. Once again, um, I don't think that there's much else going on with this until we complete a 5 wave move. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, obviously, we've had a pretty decent bounce. So at the moment, we've hit that 1,000 period moving average on the daily. Okay. On the 4 hour, though, we've pierced it and we're basically hanging in between there. So, having done that, closed above it and just hanging around this area, I really don't see a cause for concern at this point. However, I do see that we're either potentially um, in a wave 2, a green wave 2, which, you know, if you understand impulsive moves, the corrections in a wave 3 typically won't last too long and won't be shallow at all. If you look at previous impulsive moves, they barely correct lower in general. So for me to think that that's going to go much lower now, in a bullish scenario, it just makes sense that this will move higher. So as I mentioned in Bitcoin, that it could be like a wave A. Well, if you look at this, if you look at Ethereum, if you were going to look at it in the same light, then the C wave of the wave A is much longer, and it doesn't make sense for it to be a zigzag. It more looks like the start of a move higher with a 1-2-1-2 pattern. I'm not going to get into the details of this small degree move just yet. Um, just looking at it quickly, it's very choppy. potentially a 3-3-5-3-5 pattern going on there, or we could see this as a whole zigzag potentially. Like I said, it's very choppy. We could be in the last part of this correction as well, like Bitcoin. It's just hard to tell. So, yeah, so if that is the case, then we're probably going to see a 5-wave move lower to retest the 500 period potentially. And then if we break the high, it'd be in line with the Bitcoin idea. So I want to now go to SNX. As you know, I like to cover SNX. So on the daily, we're looking at very similar scenario, wave 4 with a wave 5 in progress. Now this particular crypto is of interest due to the way that it's bounced after it hit that low, which was a 95% decline from the highs of around $28. So if we look at the 4-hour, right, you can see how it's interacting with the 1000 period moving average. If we just take away the labeling, we're just looking at retesting that potentially, trying to close above it. In terms of what I believe the pattern is doing itself, there's a 1-2, 1-2. Okay, so 1-2, so wave 2 would be there. What I believe is happening here is a small degree wave 1 and a correction. And the reason I think that is because of what I believe is a type 2 weak 5-wave move. So basically a wave 1 that moves up in 5 waves, but it kind of contracts into like a leading diagonal, if you want to call it that, depending on what you follow. So I've put what I believe is the start of that move. I've put the fib on that, and we're basically touching the 50% around there. So at this point in time, given that it's a pretty small degree, I've had a look at it, and there is a potential that this is a complete correction going on. In terms of basically like a 3-3-5-3-5 pattern, which is completing, or potentially like a 3-3-5. It could be 3-5, but that's, like I said, small degree, very choppy. Taking on the shape of a zigzag, you can get a full correction, depending on the structure. This one looks like a 5-wave move with a correction in between, and then a 5-wave move. So it could be a B, it could be a D, right? So it could be A, B, C, D, E, except the B and the C are very small. Like I said, small degree choppy moves, not that great to deal with. So a break of the highs once again is indication, but by that time, I mean if it's gonna move, it's gonna move fast, right? If it's not gonna move, it'll keep falling. I cannot see a bearish scenario for this, and I think I've explained it in previous videos before. So therefore, in my opinion, the critical support would be at the end of wave 2 at around $3.42, around that. And I'll quickly explain why I believe that there is no bearish scenario going on here, is because, as I've mentioned a few times in the past, there's only 2 patterns that occur in the markets. One's a zigzag and one's a 5-wave move. So far, there's no zigzag here, right? you can't say that this move up was the first part of a zigzag and then we've seen like the rest of a zigzag here. You'd have to have a move that is similar in length to that. We've had nothing of the sort. So to me, trying to make a bearish scenario out of this um, is basically just trying to force the pattern to be something that it's not, especially according to AriasWave, where there's a certain some guidelines that basically don't add up to this type of thing, to this being any kind of bearish move. I'm just thinking that it's retesting the 1000 period moving average, which happens to be around 0.618 of that move up, that leading diagonal, if you want to call it that in Elliott wave terms, or a type 2 week 5 wave move for wave 1 of the coming third of a third wave. So whacking the labels back on, you can see it'll be a third of a third wave in progress now. So having said that, without much time left, I'm going to quickly head over to XLM. The reason why I tend to stay away from XLM at the moment is because my interpretation right now of this is very, very strange. So if we're in a wave 5 now, we made a wave 1 with wave 1 having produced what you'd call a leading diagonal, but not in the shape of one. Definitely what I'd call a type 1 weak 5 wave move, subdividing into threes as you move higher. And then a very short, sharp, very small, short, sharp 2, followed by a wave 3, very choppy. And then alternation dictates that wave 4 is long in duration and deep due to the alternation, which is a massive extreme of alternation, but once again can fit in line with, I suppose, the greater picture in terms of percentage gain. I mean, I'm just looking for an all-time high from here, which can be pretty decent when you think about it. Okay, the risk to reward here has some potential. Okay, it does, because it's about 600% versus 300% for SNX, right? And that's if we're going to hit that all-time high, and that's if this is a wave 4. Now, if you look closely here, you can see that I've labeled this is another reason why I haven't been covering this, because if I'm to fall back to this type of analysis, we've got the majority of the end of the correction occurring at the lows, which to me, I have to be very careful with this kind of analysis. Wave 4 has not gone into the price territory of wave 1 and 2 with this particular count, but that's a pretty risky count, but it makes sense if you look at it in this perspective. I'll zoom in closer. We're barely, going above that level, very close to the lows. I'd count this as an A, large A, a B, a C, a D, and then that last move down, an E, right? So we've seen a break of the E wave. So at this point, yeah, sure, I could count that as a low. According to the count, we've just only broken the start of wave E, so it's only just been confirmed that this is the case, right? So it's a very interesting inverse head and shoulders pattern as well, and a wave 1 followed by a 3 and a 3, so it's A B, and what you're seeing now is a C wave. So it's pretty interesting. If you believe in the count, as my members will probably check this out and confirm for themselves, then it seems viable. It doesn't seem like a lot of risk for the potential reward, but I'm going to leave that up to you to make up your own mind. So hopefully you found this video interesting and informative. Thank you for watching.